Welcome everyone. Today we are going to learn about how chlorine bicarbonate antiporter helps in the carbon dioxide transport by red blood cells. So here I have taken two examples, two situations basically. One is when these red blood cells present in the systemic means tissue capillaries, and another condition is that, or situation, when this R.B.C, these are example of red blood cells, so R.B.C present in the pulmonary capillaries. So in these two situations, two different actually reactions occurs. That's how these red blood cells actually carry or transport the carbon dioxide. How it occurs, I will tell you. The first thing we have to understand that in the systemic capillaries, the carbon dioxide pressure is high. The carbon dioxide pressure is high because tissue cells generate carbon dioxide by the aerobic metabolism. And opposite is true, that is oxygen pressure is actually low here. In case of pulmonary capillaries, the carbon dioxide pressure is low and oxygen pressure is high. So what happens when red blood cells present in the systemic capillaries, carbon dioxide actually enters inside the cell by simple diffusion mechanism. It enters. Now this carbon dioxide actually reacts with the hydroxyl ion by an enzyme called carbonic anhydrase. Remember the name of this enzyme? Carbonic anhydrase. Okay. This carbonic anhydrase converts carbon dioxide and hydroxyl ions into bicarbonate ions. Okay. HCO3 minus. Now what happens here? This is the chlorine and bicarbonate antiporter. Okay. Chlorine bicarbonate antiporter. Now this HCO3 actually comes out from the cell into the blood plasma. Suppose this is the blood plasma. So it comes out of the cell, and here it present in the blood plasma, this bicarbonate, and chlorine actually comes inside of the cell. Okay. Now what happens in the red blood cells? There is hemoglobin. We know that there is hemoglobin. Now this hemoglobin, when present, these red blood cells when present in the systemic capillaries, as because there is low oxygen pressures, so this hemoglobin that actually coming, this red blood cells actually coming from lungs, so it carries oxygen, and this oxygen actually released. So oxygen actually released into the blood plasma. So oxygen release occur. So you have to understand this, that as because here oxygen pressure is low, R.B.C that carries oxygen from the lungs, it releases the oxygen so that the tissue can consume the oxygen. When this hemoglobin releases the oxygen, structural conformational change occur. Here in the hemoglobin, one amino acid present called histidine. Remember the name of the amino acid, histidine. Now this histidine actually has histidine amino acids actually take and protons, because here water actually splits into hydroxyl ion and H plus ions. Now if H plus ions is present inside the red blood cells, it actually increases the pH. Now by taking these H plus ions or protons into the hemoglobin, it actually maintains the pH of the cells. Now what happens during the pulmonary capillaries when red blood cells present? Here, as because the oxygen pressure is high, the hemoglobin will actually receive the oxygen. Here oxygen will actually diffuse by the simple diffusion. It enters the cell and hemoglobin actually binds with these oxygens. Now when oxygen is bind with the hemoglobin, this hemoglobin that contains the histidine actually release the proton. It release the proton. Okay. When hemoglobin release oxygen, it actually takes proton. When hemoglobin takes the oxygen, it releases proton. Simultaneously, here in the blood plasma, from the blood plasma, HCO3 minus, that means bicarbonate, actually comes inside the cell, and chlorine actually moves out. That means export occur. Chlorine export occur. This is the same chlorine bicarbonate antiporter. Now here this bicarbonate actually comes inside, or import occur. Now opposite will occur here. The bicarbonate is converted by this enzyme carbonic anhydrase into hydroxyl ion and carbon dioxide. Now because there is a low carbon dioxide pressure, the carbon dioxide will be released from the red blood cells and it will be expelled through the lungs. Okay, so basically what we have found that this bicarbonate is actually the carbon dioxide. In the blood plasma, the carbon dioxide in a gaseous form dissolves very poorly. So in the blood plasma, carbon dioxide does not dissolve easily. It dissolves poorly. So remember this, 80% of carbon dioxide are actually transported as bicarbonate, that is generated by red blood cells. So basically red blood cells takes the carbon dioxide because in the blood plasma carbon dioxide dissolves poorly. So that carbon dioxide enters the cells, it converts by this help of carbonic anhydrase into bicarbonate. This bicarbonate comes down to the blood plasma. When the red blood cells present in the pulmonary capillaries, this bicarbonate enters the cells. It divides by the same enzyme into carbon dioxide and hydroxyl ions. Now remember here, as I have mentioned, these hydroxyl ions and these protons are now actually combined to generate water, because if only protons is present, then it will actually cause the increase of the pH. So when hydroxyl and protons react, it generates water, so that pH is maintained. So by this way the carbon dioxide is released. By this way this chlorine and bicarbonate antiporter, this chlorine bicarbonate antiporter in my previous video I have mentioned, in the red blood cell it is called band 3, or an alternative name is anion exchanger 1, or in short we call AE1. So you can remember any name, band 3 or AE1 or chlorine bicarbonate antiporter. So in this video we have learned how chlorine bicarbonate antiporter helps in the transportation of carbon dioxide in two different situations, when the red blood cell is present in the systemic capillaries and when it is present in the pulmonary capillaries. Hope this video will help you. Thank you for watching and always keep learning.